How to implement sales techniques without objections so that your sales department calls with double the conversion rate. Hello, my name is Gerus, and I will now explain how to implement sales techniques without objections from this video. There, I explained how not to be afraid to make calls, and there were clear examples. In order for the sales department to call with double the conversion rate and not burn out, and for you to receive twice the cash flow, first, decide who is responsible for the process of increasing conversions. If there is a lack of competencies or no one responsible, invite external experts. Second, listen to the calls and record in real time the phrases from the script that lead to objections. Highlight each phrase that doesn't work in order to find mistakes. Third, next, we personally call clients, live and create statistics that are better than before. Sometimes it is possible to increase the conversion rate by 3 to 5 times more than it was before. You need to make calls differently than you usually do. Otherwise, you will get the same old result. Imagine 2 sales departments. One is a 5% sales department and the other is a 10% sales department. So the second one develops not twice as fast, but many times faster. The same number of people work the same amount of time, but the amount of money made is twice as much. Therefore, change your conversation techniques and look for your own ways to increase conversion. Third, after you have evidence, statistics, recordings of benchmark calls with managers, and all phrases and stages of the sales process have been worked out, it is advisable to have each manager repeat all these phrases and algorithms 5 to 10 times, or better yet, every day. Because a manager's mindset, like yours, does not change immediately. Also, managers cannot always immediately repeat everything clearly. And if they cannot repeat it, it does not work. And when it doesn't work, tension arises. And when tension arises, the desire to make calls decreases. Fears and an emotional block arise, which need to be removed, because these objections have already become tiresome. Repetition is the mother of learning. You knew this, but now it's time to act on it. However, don't expect the manager to be able to do it on the first day. A manager is not a robot. Fourth, to increase the conversion rate of the sales department, it is also important not to be afraid to make follow-up calls and to know how many and what types of calls are needed to close a client. To do this, follow these steps. At the beginning of the conversation, do not focus on whether it is convenient for the client to talk. Do not focus on the name of your company, but focus on what is happening with the client now and what has happened to them in the past. In other words, state the fact and confirm it. Next, name the possible reasons, list them, and ask, which of these reasons stopped the client from returning to you? You can watch examples of conversations in my other videos. Every company has a question. What can be done to make clients return? And for this, you need to know why they didn't return. So, how do you find out why they didn't return? In the call, obtain initial agreements and list possible reasons so that the person can choose and explain why they did not return. Why am I repeating this now? Because these simple things are not being done, and that's why the desire to make calls decreases. That is, it is advisable to conduct training sessions before calls during the day, in the morning, and on weekends. Because training and simulations are often undervalued, people say it's better to test it in practice. That is, to call clients, and then we will understand what works and what doesn't. If you know exactly how to do it right, if you are not prepared, you can make mistakes. And you will be lowering your own desires, thereby risking reducing your sales. In other words, to stop being afraid of making calls, just do it correctly and practice on yourself. And you can involve any specific experts to make an exemplary call and demonstrate that it definitely works. If you are an expert, you can make an exemplary call and personally demonstrate a high conversion rate. So, if my conversion rate was 5% and the owner wanted, for example, 15%, but after the test, the conversion rate is higher than 25%, it becomes hard not to implement it. So, how do you stop being afraid of the client? Knowing what kind of conversation starter will create comfort and a desire to talk for the client. Therefore, in the next videos, I will show 15 ways to start a conversation with clients, and these will be 15 examples for different situations. This is so you can take and implement it. If you don't have time to watch the video, and if you want your cold and warm clients to respond to you today so they can feel comfortable by tomorrow and make purchases, then leave a request in the contact link in the video description. Message me on social media, write me the word test, and we will get in touch with you. We will make live calls, gather statistics, and you will hear how well it works. 5. Talk less than the client. And to do this, learn to ask questions. You knew this, but I bet a beer that if you take 10 random calls, in almost 9 out of 10 of them, you will be talking more than the client, explaining something to them, arguing, and consulting. You check, and then you will work with objections. Why did you explain, tell, and present so that the client would understand and buy? But in practice, the client listens and says, I will think about it. Here is how presentation explanations work, excluding the part where you close the deal. We are talking about how to sell to those who haven't bought yet, right? That is, learn to make it so that you are not selling to the client, but the client is selling to themselves. If you integrate these few steps into your work, you will immediately see an increase in conversions. You can only influence what you control, and your unrecorded conversations, where you implemented something, where it worked or didn't work, cannot be controlled. That is why a professional runner measures how long it takes him to run a kilometer. So you should measure the effectiveness of your actions at every stage. I can wish you luck in this, but if you have doubts about these techniques, write to me on Instagram or Telegram. The links are in the description under the video. For interesting businesses and entrepreneurs, I will demonstrate one-on-one how to sell, live to increase conversion.